Let's go, I'm a bulldog. So Georgia, who I'm picking. I love the family atmosphere and the way they handle business.
All right, Dog Nation, what's up? You guys might be wondering, hold on. I thought Jeff and Brandon and Kaylee and Mike and the whole Dog Nation team, BJ, Casey, I thought all those guys were on a boat. Well, that's right. We are on a boat, but the Before the Hedges show brought to you by Kroger must go on. This is a special Dog Nation cruise edition of Before the Hedges. And I guess instead of calling it maybe Before the Hedges, we can call it During the Cruise. Look at this. I've got my cruise shirt ready to go. Probably going to wear this shirt on Lido Deck sometime this week around Nassau, somewhere around the Keys, somewhere like that on Allure of the Sea. So we will be having a very good time. But as I said, this may be a vacation show, but we are not going to shortchange the audience member 1 second. So put those 4 fingers in the air like it's the fourth quarter. It's light up Krypton and Sanford because we are coming at you with a grab your popcorn edition of Before the Hedges. Why do I say that? Because we're going to talk to local media about what it was like when Ryan Montgomery committed to the G. What's up with that dog? What is Ryan Montgomery really like? That's part of our show. We've also got, get this, slow down, Dog Nation. This is probably deserving of its own slice in the headline. You want to see an exclusive interview with Justus Terry, the 5-star former UGA commit, now a USC commit. You want to know what did Kirby Smart say to him at G-Day? You want to know how he still feels about the Dogs. You want to know what was going through his mind watching the Dogs out on G-Day. That's all in here, just like your favorite snack aisle or the popcorn aisle at your favorite local Kroger. And if that wasn't enough, we've got something I've been looking forward to putting together for a very long time. Sometimes, we're all about Before the Hedges, but we're going to take a moment in this show with, I feel like, the most impressive Dog Nation conversation we've ever had. It's going to be an After the Hedges special edition with Georgia, former Georgia center, all-time Georgia center. That's what I believe. Sedrick Van Pran-Granger. You want to do it? You want to see it in Sanford Stadium Plaza, underneath the scoreboard, right off the Sanford Bridge? Sure you do. That Dog Nation conversation in its entirety will be part of our program tonight. Great retrospective on all things Sedrick Van Pran-Granger. And also, since this is a recruiting show, we're going to have a special, not a special, but I asked Sedrick, I was like, hey, man, what is your advice now that he's graduated from the Hedges? What would be your advice you would give to future recruits or future Bulldogs that are coming to play for the University of Georgia? Fascinating answer he had right there. It really kind of shows you a little bit of the DNA of UGA. So a lot to go. This may be a vacation show, but the quality, the content, of course, the production behind the glass by Miss Kaylee Mansell is always on point here as well. So right now, let's go. Number 1 on our Before the Hedges special cruise edition brought to you by Kroger. Let's talk to Kyle Rowland of the Toledo Blade, who was on the scene when Ryan Montgomery committed to the G. All right, guys, Before the Hedges brought to you by Kroger, where we talk about them Dogs that are on their way to play between the Hedges in Athens. We got a special guest this week, one of our Big Four. Let's put up your fingers right now for your Big Four. We've got Kyle Rowland of the Toledo Blade. And Kyle, how you doing today, man? Everything good?
I am doing wonderful. Happy to be on.
So you've got, if I know my geography, Toledo's probably 45 minutes away from Findlay, and then Toledo's 45 minutes away from Detroit, roughly. Is that about what we got here?
I'd say you're spot on.
Oh, wow. Wow. Awesome. So everybody, I think one of the cool things is kids today, they're too cool for hats. They're too cool for school with hats. And Ryan's not the first guy that brought a Bulldog out for his ceremony, but what was it like being there for the ceremony? It seemed like Ryan and everybody had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I mean, we've all been to these ceremonies before. I mean, it's neat for, to see someone talk about at that point what is the most momentous decision in their life and this great moment and everything. And I've known the Montgomery family for a few years, so it was cool to just see how happy they were. I know they're relieved for it to be over. Obviously, they went through the same situation with Luke a few years ago. But Winnie, the 8-month-old English bulldog, was definitely the star of the show. So it was a pretty cool to have the prop.
I think I saw the backstory in this. Didn't they borrow it from, we're not going to penalize them at all for creativity for having a brown bulldog and not an all-white English bulldog, but didn't they borrow it from somebody in town that has bulldogs or something like that?
Yeah, it's from a local kennel. And they thought of it just like 24 hours before the ceremony and kind of scrambled and found someone. The funny thing about it, the irony, obviously, this is Ohio, that Winnie's handler is an Ohio State fan and was wearing an Ohio State hat. So that's just a little note for your Georgia fans.
I thought it was appropriate how the quarterback is only as good as the guys around him at the University of Georgia. They're only as good as the dogs around him. So already Ryan needed help from another dog to make him kind of look good. Kyle, think about the first time you met Ryan. What was your first impression of him?
That's a good question. So the first time I met him was during his brother's recruitment. He's just this 8th grade kid who already was very hyped and had scholarship offers. But the thing that's always struck me about Ryan is he's, kind of quiet and reserved, but he's like the most respectful kid ever. I mean, he still calls me Mr. Rowland all the time. I'm like, no, my name is Kyle. Just call me Kyle. But I just think he's a very mature kid, great parents, great head on his shoulders. He's smart. That's just kind of always the things that have kind of stuck out about him.
I think it was reported that he's the first player from the state of Ohio. Now, signee commitment, it's a gray area there because I think Ryan will go on and sign. It seems very firm with Georgia. But last time I think it was 1991 when Georgia took a player out of Ohio, and that's just like some crazy stat there. For you've covered him in games. Like, what's he like on the field? And then what's he like maybe post-game? Is he one of those guys that, everybody loves quarterbacks to be great quotes. He seems like very media savvy. Like, what's your impressions of him on a game night?
Yeah, I mean, I think quarterbacks these days, I mean, these kids like kind of grow up going to camps and being interviewed and just being in the whole media sphere. And they are around other good players. I mean, I just think before the game, warm-ups during the game, he's always very composed. I think he has kind of that it factor about him. I mean, you can just kind of tell, like, when you go to a game, oh, that's the 4-star guy that's getting all the offers. I just think there's, an aura or whatever kind of about those types of kids. I think he has it. Obviously, during the game, he's really good. He's impressive. He stands out. And he plays at a high level. I mean, he plays in the biggest division in a football mad state. And he was really good last year with, I mean, Finley was good, but I think he certainly elevated the program last year. And, after a game, I think he's savvy, like you said, but I mean, I don't know. I think he comes off as a normal high school kid. I don't think he gives you like stock answers. I mean, he gives you thoughtful answers. I think he's one of the more enjoyable high school players in the area to talk to because of that. And he's had so many experiences and he sees the game so well that, I mean, if you ask him, X's and O's type things, he can answer it and really give you a quality response.
Kyle, I think my last thing, man, and again, this is Kyle Rowland out of the Toledo Blade. I was looking at some of the coverage, and he was your all-Blade. First of all, the Toledo Blade is an amazing name for a news outlet. Can't call it a newspaper anymore, but it sounds amazing. But he was the all-Blade player of the year, I believe. And one of the stories, guys like me, they quickly learned that he broke Ben Roethlisberger's single-game record. I believe it was 491 yards in a game. Maybe it was also 6 touchdowns in a game. And in I think it was his player of the year story, the reporter basically made the claim that he already might be the best quarterback, schoolboy quarterback, of course, and that means reputation up through high school level, that corner of Ohio, that slice of Ohio has ever produced. And I guess Roethlisberger wasn't on the map because he goes to Miami of Ohio. coming out of high school. Is he really already kind of seen as one of the better high school quarterbacks that the Toledo coverage area has ever produced?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. And there have been some good ones come through. I mean, the interesting thing about Roethlisberger is he didn't really take off till his senior year of high school. So it's not like there was this like steady progression and hype surrounding him. I mean, like I said, I mean, since 8th grade, everyone has known about Ryan and followed him. And I mean, sometimes that overwhelms people. I mean, you don't always live up to it. I mean, I think he's kind of exceeded it, really. I mean, played as a freshman and he's gotten better every year. Obviously, essentially every school in the country kind of wanted him. So, I mean, like Deshaun Kaiser, who went to Notre Dame, he's from Toledo. I'm kind of drawing a blank on the spot, but I mean, there've been a lot of good quarterbacks from the area. And yeah, I mean, I think he's right there near the top of the list. I'd be stunned if he wasn't the Blade Player of the Year again next year, which is, I mean, it's a fairly prestigious award. I mean, if you look back through the history of who the past players of the year, I mean, it's typically a Division I guy who goes on to have a pretty good career.
Yeah. Kyle, I want to leave you with one last question. Sometimes hard for writers, sometimes easy for writers. I think Ryan would give you a lot of variety here. If you had to describe him in one word, maybe 2 words if we could cheat, what would be the words you would pick? I feel like polished is really polished or mature might be the ones for me, but you've been to 7 of his football games. You've covered him after wins and losses. What would be your choice there?
Yeah, I mean, those are 2 for sure that kind of jump off at you. I don't know. Reserved is almost a word that kind of comes to my mind, which I think is a good thing for a quarterback. I mean, when you're in the pressure cooker and you're at Georgia and the SEC and everything that comes with that, you know, being a little calm and mild-mannered goes a long way.
Oh, good way to look at that. Mild-mannered, calm, you know, not too high, not too cold. That's the way Kirby Smart actually likes his quarterbacks, on an even keel. Kyle Rowland, you can find him at Kyle Rowland for the Toledo Blade. Does a good job. Going to be covering Ryan all season long this fall probably, so you guys follow him if you want to know what he does. Basically, big games, all area teams, all metro teams, preseason, all Blade, all that stuff. Kyle will be your guy. Hey, Kyle, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Happy to be on.
Pretty good stuff there. I like Kyle's answer to a couple of those questions. Reserved. That's pretty good there, right? You learned the story of Winnie, but I know what you guys are waiting on. This is on cruise time on DawgNation Before the Hedges. It may seem a little easy breezy, but let's jump right into it right now. Do you want to hear something? Do you want to hear what Justus Terry had to say after G-Day? Of course you do. Right now, we went down to Manchester High School. We took that long trip down, and I thought Justus was great. I learned a lot. I hope you learned a lot. Here's a very exclusive DawgNation chat with 5-star defensive lineman Justus Terry. Justus Terry, probably the most interesting visitor at G-Day on Saturday. Justus, it looked like you were doing some thinking. I caught some pictures of you. You looked like Aristotle, the thinker. Like, what's going through your mind as you're watching the Dogs play?
You know, just picturing myself out there playing and running across the field, making plays.
What do people maybe not understand about this flip? I'm sure people would quickly come to the conclusion that, hey, it's just about, you know, money, instant cash, glitz, glamour, Hollywood. But that's really not it. Like, what was this flip about for you?
It's more of the business side, you know, wanting to start business with barbering and a lot of more things. And I just want to expand with the life. You know, a lot of people love Los Angeles, California. You know, a lot of people want to go out there. So with being out there, it's like, there's no way that you cannot succeed in the business.
I know this decision, a big chunk of it had to be about development. Like, how do you feel USC will develop you to get to your dreams?
Yes, sir. I feel like, you know, being one of the #1 NIL schools, too, is like, it plays a big part. Not saying that that's the main reason. It plays a big part in it because, you know, name, likeness, and image, or whatever, well, the order, you know how it goes. And it plays a big part because people would know me, you know, being Justus Terry, people would know me. And I feel like I would have the name out there to be, you know, liked by people and have the clientele to succeed in the business side.
You mentioned NIL, but for you, NIL is not a Lamborghini. NIL to you would mean businesses, real estate, investment.
Yes,
can you just articulate maybe like how you would use NIL to kind of set yourself up for your future even after football?
Yes, sir. I would just use it, take it all in and use it to invest, invest in myself in businesses. So on the back end, everything will all fall in place, even before and after the NFL, I'll be sitting on that, have businesses running from, years until, I ever decide to stop or whatever. And I don't plan to stop. So, it'll keep going.
Entrepreneur, huh?
Yes, sir.
That's what people should look at. Not identifying by 5 stars, but look at him as a businessman, right?
Yes, sir.
Justus, I couldn't believe this. You told me a second ago that you're going to be in college, wherever, and you'd hope to own your own barbershop.
Yes, sir.
And you'd even be cutting hair when you're not in school or working out or practicing.
Yes, sir.
Why? Like, people are going to see that and they're going to go, man, this guy must really love to cut hair.
Me, I really started cutting hair because first, it's a family thing and I want to keep that going. Second, it's a way to stay out the way, stay out of trouble. And, around here, there's not too many things you can do around here that's fun besides, out here and in the mix. So I try to stay out the mix as much as possible and just go my own wave, and cutting hair was one of those waves I could just stay to myself.
What do you love about USC? What made you committed, and what still makes you smile when you think about that opportunity there?
It's really the new coaching staff. At first I really didn't have any communication with USC. That was one of the first schools that offered me in 9th grade, and I really didn't have a connection with them. But with the new staff, when they came in, they like instantly started hitting me. Coach Henderson, Coach Henny, he was a great guy. One of the first one to hit me when he first came in, and it was nothing but love when he first came.
So you're at Georgia this past weekend. I'm curious, what did really Coach Smart have to say to you, and then maybe Coach Scott as well?
Yes, sir. They always told me, it's a marathon. They've been telling me that from day one, and he always reminded me, like, Justice, what did I tell you day one? And I was like, Coach, you always told me you were going to make a run for it. He was like, yes, it's a marathon. And he was like, I'm never going to stop.
The first time you talked to Trey, he said, you're going to be wanted by everybody and it's going to be a marathon. Did he really say that?
Yes, sir. From day one, he always told me, it's a marathon.
Told you the same thing after the flip, huh?
The same thing.
Did you get a chance to talk to Kirby? What did Kirby have for you?
Yeah, Kirby, he just told me, the development process of, the numbers and how things going to matter all at the end, just come in, get developed. If you grind, do what you have to do, you'll get out.
Is it hard for you? Is it a little hard, or is this you still able to kind of look at it as a blessing?
I look at it as a blessing because I wouldn't say hard, because no matter where you go, it's going to have to be the place for you. No matter where you choose or decide to go, you have to be there for 3 to 4 years. So it have to be the place for you, nowhere around it. So I just look at it as a blessing, to have all these opportunities, and whatever decision I go with, I just have to stay down with it and trust God, trust the process.
What was it like when you flipped and you came back to Manchester, Georgia? I mean, did everybody ask why, or did they look at you weird, or like how did everybody take that around here?
Yes, sir. Everyone, big around UGA around here. So when I came back, everyone, people was with me, and some was just questioning like why, like not saying that I would, tell them, it was just people wouldn't understand. Around here, a lot of people based off around Georgia, they don't know the outside, the business part, they don't think outside the box like me. And like it played a big part in it. And I just came down here, just looked at everyone and was like, hey, I'm doing what's best for me.
Did USC put that vision in your head about barbershops, or did you hear what they were saying and you say, I can use that to get to that?
Yes, sir. I just heard what they were saying, about the business part. Coach Riley, he's locked in with a lot of business guys, and they can push me to a higher level in that category. So, that's what I want to do, just expand.
You've answered all my questions. Like,
yes, sir.
What's your story that you want to have out there about, where you're at right now and like what's going through your mind, just to maybe help other people understand it better?
Yes, sir. Me, obviously, I faced a lot of adversity early on in my high school career, so it's like me, life not all about, money and other fancy things. It's all about, trying to make things happen and have a better future for myself. So with me, I had injuries coming into high school, 9th grade year, had 2 knee injuries in the same year, ended my season kind of early, came back, playoff, went to the 3rd round, lost. And there was a lot of things, just hit me at the time. And, this is my 9th grade year, I first blew up. I was supposed to be this big guy, just manhandling people, and me, it kind of hit me hard. I was just wondering, like, why me? But then, I kind of just sat and really just thought about my why and what pushed me to keep going. And when I thought about it, I was just instantly hopped up and just started back working. And when I worked, it got me to this point now, and that would never change me, never.
And that why is your own businesses, barbershops.
Yes, sir. Businesses, barbershop, grandparents, family, everything behind me. Anything that stand behind me and pushing me, that's my why.
So when things get tough, you really think about a neon sign that's your business and your store and the barber pole.
Yes, sir.
And that's what you work for. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
I don't think a lot of people would understand that, but
Yes,
I think
sir.
it's pretty cool.
Yes, sir.
Justus Terry, everybody wants to know, how was the visit? How are things going? This looks like a young man that's very happy with the blessings that are coming down in his life right now.
Yes, sir.
Justus, appreciate you. Thanks for making some time.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. What do you think there, DawgNation? I mean, very revealing. You learn a whole lot. You think NIL. You think that story is, young man from small town Georgia, goes over to Hollywood, bright lights, big city, gets stunned, gets overwhelmed. But if you listened to what Justus had to say there, that's really not it. I thought it was fascinating how he wants to use NIL immediately when he's in college to open his own barbershop. He already cuts hair for his team. He was cutting hair for his teammates. He had them all lined up for their junior-senior prom this past weekend in Manchester. He loves to cut. He comes to school with a book bag full of his clippers and his shears. Usually charges maybe like $20 a head, and that's how he makes his money. He wants to be an entrepreneur. He wants to own his own businesses, plural, and he wants to bring those businesses back to very rural Manchester, high school area, that area right around where he grew up. He wants to do something with football that changes the community that he grew up with. Very fascinating. I know people just think that, to use the Brandon Adams special term right there, that USC just money whipped him and it was it. Well, they told him about NIL. They told him about the business. Lincoln Riley told him about all the connections he has in the area with entrepreneurs and things like that. And Justus Terry took that in his own way. Really impressive young man. The folks down in Manchester, they swear by him. They all feel, while they were surprised by his decision, they understand where his heart, where his motivation is. Very giving teammate. He prays for his teammates. He prays for his coaches. He's a really dialed in, grounded kid. And this is from a place, a little quick backstory. Manchester, the last time they sent a player to Power 5 football was Kentucky back in, I believe, 2017. And that was the last one anybody can remember. And now flash forward to this spring, flash forward to January, their football field, same football field that Justus Terry grew up playing rec ball on, is the one he plays his high school football on. And 14 helicopters, I believe that number's right, 14 helicopters landed on the school field during the month of January alone. So quite a culture shock. Fascinating story. I'm sure you guys paid close attention to the part where he said he's probably not going to be finalized with his decision until December, until the first day of the early signing period. So fascinating to follow everything going on right there with Justus Terry, especially after G-Day. He's got some official visits lined up. He's going to go to Georgia first, May 31st, and then USC is probably going to have his last official visit in June. That's a story DawgNation will be all over and we'll be watching very closely. Hey, we teed it up. We teased it. I think this is an amazing DawgNation production. Got to thank Cody Chaffins, our ace, for his work on this. We go down to Athens and we sit down with Sedrick Van Pran-Granger right outside Sanford Stadium, and we kind of have a "This Is Your Georgia Life" special moment, whatever you want to call it. I think it was an amazing chat with Sedrick Van Pran-Granger. Enjoy. All right, guys. Jeff Sentell here. You know where this is. This is Sanford Stadium. This is Dooley Field. We got a special edition of Before the Hedges. We're going to have to call this After the Hedges because he and I were talking just before we started. This really feels like full circle. I was going through my notes, Sedrick, and the first time I spoke to you was September of 2018.
Okay.
That was 6 years ago, man.
That's wild.
You didn't have any of this right here.
No, I did not. I
I guess I would just want to start with one thing, and I know you're very humble. You've always been very humble, but it's kind of my job, like everybody says it, we'll let, Kirby even says it, we'll let you guys in the media decide this and this and that. Sedrick, I know you know the history of this program. You started 44 games for Georgia. Your team, in a very vital position, won 42 out of those 44 games. In the history of Georgia football, there's only been one person that was a line of scrimmage every down player that started in that many victories, and that was David Green. David Green was 42 and I believe 12. He played all 4 years. You obviously had 3 really amazing seasons. The only player that has started for Georgia and been a part of more wins are guys like Jake Cromartie, kickers, punters, stuff like that. You're not very easily swayed. You're very much a focused guy. When someone tells you like that on this field, at a high attrition position, nobody has been in more victories than you were at the University of Georgia, and then you've also a part of 2 national championships. What goes through your mind when you hear something like that?
Well, I think that's a really cool moment, but that wouldn't be possible without my teammates, the guys that really make that engine go. I can think back even to that 2021 season. Everybody had to play a part, between, JT and then Stetson, and then we had so many injuries and things like that. So everybody played a part in that. I'm just glad that I was able to play my role to help achieve that. But that's a really, really cool stat, though.
Sedrick, I'm sure you have many moments. You've probably been answered this question a lot, but a lot of times reporters get you after games or on the podium, and you're not a reflective dude. You're very much a go-ahead type dude.
Yeah. When
you think of your Georgia career, are there 1 or 2 on the field, off the field moments that you think you'll always remember?
I guess I'll keep this positive because I can definitely remember all of the losses that we've had, and I know that may seem odd, but
both of them.
Yeah, that's
just 2.
Those are the ones that I remember the most. But if I had to say just on or off the field moments, I can honestly say just the camaraderie that we had in that 2021 season, the level of care that everybody had for each other, spending as much time as possible. Even going into the 2022 season, I can think about the offensive line room. There wasn't a moment that we weren't together, and those are really, really special moments to me. We had a lot of fun, worked really, really hard together, going to church on Sundays and then getting up and working out and just really kind of figuring out life together. It was definitely an interesting time for us. So maybe that, if I had to say anything else, I would say 2021, we were deep into the summer workouts, and Coach Sinclair and Coach Smart were getting after us pretty good. We were going into a hard workout, a team run, and we ended up going to the pool that day. So that was definitely a fun day for us.
That's cool. It's a lineman's answer. That's definitely a lineman's answer. When you're supposed to do something and then they switch it up on you.
We were going through it, so it was definitely a relief for everybody.
Sedrick, you're about to be drafted. Is there, I remember asking high school kids this, what's the piece of film, what's the game that says, because football, the film's your DNA.
Yes, sir.
That eye in the sky does not lie. For you, what do you think you always said this term to me, that you want to be the best version of yourself.
Yes, sir.
What's the best version of Sedrick Van Pran-Granger on the field? Did you have one of those moments where you were in fuego? If you had to grade out yourself, what was your best game?
That's tough. If I had to choose maybe just this season, maybe Auburn or Florida. I feel like I played some solid football in those games, so maybe those.
Cedrick, I'm going to go through a couple things here. This is going to be a little bit like this is your dog life.
Okay.
This is your time as a dog.
Okay.
We're not going to have old coaches coming out, but this is what you said when you committed.
Okay.
You don't think about this stuff, but it's a reporter-writers type thing to do here. My message to the fans is that I plan on giving you guys a great 3 to 4 years. I'm not going to say I want to change the culture in Athens, but to enhance the culture, to get kind of things going in my own way. I'm the type of guy, when I'm at a school, that I really build a love for a school and I become attached. So definitely I will be all Georgia football, and I can't wait.
Sounds about right.
Job done?
I think I did a pretty decent job. Did a pretty decent job of doing that. So that's crazy though that I said that, what, 6, 7 years ago?
Yeah.
That's insane, but I guess I kept true to my word.
Kendall in your class always had the term natties. And he said, I mean, not one. You know, like I think he said top 2 and not I'm not talking 2. He also said that. He had a lot of them.
He says a lot of things. He's an interesting guy.
If I'd have told you commitment day, or even like I remember you told me when you committed that seeing Kirby Smart on the slip and slide, you planned on waiting a lot later, but then you're just like, man, you talk to your dad and you're like, let me go ahead and do this thing. Like for you, what would you tell 18-year-old SVPG that, hey, you're going to win 2 national championships in college? What would go through your mind?
I think the biggest thing I probably would tell myself at 18 is just that you are going to experience a lot of ups and downs in college. You are going to experience the highest of highs, national championships. You're going to experience the lowest of lows, you know, when it comes to working hard, dark times, when you may not feel like it. The biggest thing that I would tell myself, though, is that never lose who you are, never lose your purpose, and stay connected to God. That's been something that I feel like has held me down throughout my process here. It's just building a connection with the man above and working hard. So, you know, through those things, I'm very fortunate that God has allowed me to, you know, be in this position.
Sedrick, I know you've told me before you're not really proud of this moment. This is when young, firebrand Sedrick, but that really, when I saw you, and you gave me a great answer inside your Georgia career, but we're going to look at this piece of video right here. But this is the time, I believe it was your second year at Easton, and the Fighting Eagles with the boxing gloves on their helmet, you didn't win. You didn't,
yeah.
And it was like, I think 2 years in a row where you had a high school championship snatched away from you, and you were in the moment. I think you guys went for 2 to win, and you didn't get it. And you're literally like pound in the field. Now you're probably like not my proudest moment there, but to me, as a guy that studies high school players all my life and recruits and prospects all my life, that showed me a lot. That showed me that you want 85 like this guy on the team. That it, you know, I've always felt that find you the guys that hate to lose more than they want to win.
100%.
And tell me about that moment first, because I have a follow-up question to that. But do you remember that moment? And when you look back on it now, what goes through your mind?
So in that moment, that was a lot. So I'd never beat that school in high school. So 4 years, sometimes I played them once, sometimes I played them twice, because they were all crosstown rivals at the car. And we lost to them a lot. And that was kind of my final chance my senior year to be able to beat them for a national championship. So to lose by 1, it was definitely tough for me, because not only did we lose in the state championship, which we wanted so bad, but we lost to them. That's what made it worse for me. And kind of in that moment, I guess it just all flashed for me like, you won't get this opportunity again, and you blew it, right? So I think that something I've always done internally is that I've always taken blame for losses and things like that, which is why I told you I more so remember the losses here, because as a leader of the team, I feel like I take responsibility for that. So that's definitely what I remember from that moment. But looking back on it, if I could say anything, I think it just speaks to the level of passion I play football with, and definitely still sorry for showing that, because that's not something that, you know, you should necessarily show. I definitely could have handled that situation better, but in all honesty, that's just kind of the passion I play with. And I think my teammates and coaches that have been here for the past 4 years will tell you I'm not one to, you know, hold my tongue or hide my emotions when it comes to winning.
I think you were named a captain of your high school team when you were a sophomore.
Yes, sir.
In the playoffs, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Very rare for that to happen at Easton, I imagine. And I think there's a great contrast there between your high school career, no championships, no rings.
Yes, sir.
And then your college career, rings. I remember when you finally broke through at Georgia, and folks, this is the quintessential Sedrick Van Pran thing. And I knew your backstory, and I was like, hey, let me ask a really cool, I know the story, reporter question. And I said, you finally got one. And you finally get to hold the ring after there's no pounding on the ground anymore. And you just do Sedrick Van Pran to a T. You go, man, I wasn't even thinking about me. I was thinking about getting a natty for Jamari, getting a natty for Zamir, getting a natty for James. Where does that come from, man? I mean, that's just you, right?
I think so. I think that God has placed something very unique in me that I feel like my entire life I've always looked to help and look out for others. But also, if I'm being honest, I can attest some of that to my high school. I think they started to instill something in us, I would say probably towards the end of my freshman year, early sophomore year, where nothing was more important than Eastern football. What you did, it was the culture, it was everything. It was your life, because I always tell people, football is not a fall sport, it's a year-round sport. You're always training for it, and then you get the fall to actually go out there and compete with it. But it's something that you compete for and train for all year. So it was our life, it was everything. And the biggest thing that we always talked about there was you give up yourself, not only for the team, but those seniors, those guys who have done everything and put all the work in, that you were able to inherit. And that was something that I took very personal here, because I felt like Jamari, James Cook, Kieris, all of those guys, I felt like they had put in the work before me, and they had experienced so many different losses and heartbreaking moments that the least I could do was do all that I could to make sure that they achieved the ultimate goal of winning.
Your faith is very important to you.
Yes, sir.
Is it almost one of those things where, God has a plan, where you needed to go through that in order to be able to cherish what happened for you in college?
I think looking back on it, yes. It's so funny you asked that, because it was so important to me to win a state championship in high school. And I remember why this happened, I don't know. But for whatever reason, I think the college football playoff came to Easton like my sophomore or junior year, and the national championship trophy was on display. And I remember passing by it in between classes, or we got to see it somehow. And I remember we got to take pictures and stuff, and I remember I told myself, I'll have one of those one days. And God willing, it ended up coming true, but it was definitely a full circle moment for me, that it was it almost felt like God was rewarding me for the hard work that I had been putting in for years to be able to experience that.
Sedrick, you mentioned in one of your earlier responses that college is about highs and lows, athletics is about highs and lows, and I don't know if it would be possible for you to say which championship was sweeter. Probably would be like saying which one of your kids you're going to love more. But I definitely probably understand what might be the lowest part of your Georgia career, and that's the really tough loss of Dev.
100%.
You have so many rituals before a game. You began to write his initials on some of your gear and some of your spat, I guess, and some of your wrists. I just want people to know, when you think of Dev, what goes through your mind? Is he always going to be a part of your football life?
Yeah, 100%. Devin was a brother. That was somebody that we came in together. We weren't roommates, but, we definitely, carpooled and, went and got food together our freshman year, and, we hung out and, stuff like that throughout the years until his passing. Still have a great relationship with his mother, and, try to reach out to the family whenever I can. But when I think of Devin, I think of joy and happiness. The biggest thing that I can say about Dev, he hardly ever got seriously mad. I think as people, we always can be annoyed, but to be seriously mad and, kind of lose yourself, Devin wasn't that type of guy. He was definitely very calm, cool, collected, very goofy guy. He loved to have fun and be around his boys. So that's kind of what I think of when I think of Dev, so I want to keep his legacy going.
Can you talk about can you discuss, because I know the story, but I know folks here don't know the story. Your pregame ritual at Georgia, you would put a certain script on one of your armbands.
Yes, sir.
And that meant something to you and your family. were there any other things that you did before a game? Are you a creature of superstition on game day like some football players are?
Yeah, I'm 100%. So Coach Smart is the same way. He likes to keep the same schedule, and I'm very similar. I don't like switching things up, and the reason why is because that's kind of how I live my everyday life. Like, I like routine. I don't like spontaneity. I don't like to just kind of wing things. I love to prepare. I love to make sure that I'm putting my best foot forward, because I feel like if things go wrong and you don't do those things, now you have a bunch of different things you can kind of point at. Well, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. And I don't like those feelings. I like going forward knowing that I did everything that I possibly could. So as far as my pregame ritual.
Are those songs or something like that you gotta listen to?
Usually I'm listening to gospel on the way to the stadium. I'm trying to calm my spirit. I will say I am not, all the way into my faith yet, where I have completely just only listened to gospel music. I can admit that as a Christian, but usually I'm listening to gospel on the way to the stadium, kind of calm myself and just talk to God and kind of understand why am I doing what I'm doing, and then from that point forward it kind of switches from me after I kind of calm down. I'm no longer Sedrick. I kind of view myself as a different person. And I kind of got to start getting into a whole different mindset. So it's kind of that, listening to different music and trying to, I guess, set my mind for war, essentially. And then from that point, I'm usually writing, on my wrist tape. Typically, I believe on my left arm, it was always Dev. And there was usually a cross, I believe. Nah, actually, it may have been Dev and my grandmother. And then I think on this arm, it was the cross. And then I had the scripture that my girlfriend would send me before every game, just kind of like a devotional type deal, just before the game to kind of set my mind. So the order of it may be wrong on each wrist, but those were the 4 things that I kept on my wrist.
Sedrick, just look back, right here. What goes through your mind? Is there anything? Is that just a football field to you, or is that were you bled? Like, what is that about for you?
I can think of so many different moments. I can think of scrimmages over there, close to the actual stadium seats, where young Tate Ratledge and I took pictures going into our redshirt freshman sophomore year before he ends up getting hurt, unfortunately. Taking pictures with our family and stuff. I can think of on the opposite 20. Praying before every game, giving glory to God. I can think of running out through this end zone on senior night, talking to Coach Smart. I can think of being on this side, with Devin on G-Day on the black jerseys. It's so many different things I kind of can remember. I can think of around the G, team runs, in the January, winter, with it being cold in the stadium. It's so many things that we've kind of been through here and so many memories.
Is it more emotional the first time you run out knowing you're going to start, or is it more emotional the last time you run out knowing that?
The last one.
Why?
I think the first one is more nerve-wracking. It's more like, man, like, I don't want to be the guy that messes up. I don't want to be the guy in front of 90,000 people to ruin their day. I don't want to be the guy to let down my 100 teammates on the sideline who've worked all week for this, really all year. But I think that was more so the first time, and I think as your last start, you start to realize that it's time to transition. It's time to move on into a different world, a new profession. And it's definitely a weird feeling, but ultimately very, very grateful for sure.
Sedrick, I want you to check and look at this video here. And this is Florida State game. And I had to go back through my archives to find it, but he hasn't seen this before, guys.
No, I haven't.
So I want you to watch and kind of tell me what's going through your mind right now. That's you and Kirby. And Tate.
Yeah, all the guys.
I think Brock Bowers comes up a little bit later. And then you're with Kendall and all those guys.
Yes, sir.
I'm curious, what is your football coach, does he tell you something there that's really quick because he's got a football game to coach? Like, what's that moment like with Kirby Smart? Did he ever have that, attaboy, son, played your tail off for you, I'll never forget you? Did you guys ever have that moment after your last game?
So I can remember a few things being said, and I can't remember if it was said on the sideline or in the locker room, but one of the few things I will remember, senior night, he told me that I was his captain. I was the guy that he had a lot of love for because I had given so much to the program. And then I remember leaving the Florida State game or on the sideline, one of the two. He was basically telling me he was so proud of me and he really appreciated everything that I did for the program. And if there was anything that I ever needed, you know, he would always be there for me. But essentially, he was just saying how proud of me he was for seeing things through and doing it the right way.
One of the goals you had when we wrote a bunch of stories of you when you were on your way to Georgia. Probably my one regret is I didn't get to talk to you every day like all the other beat writers did, but I'm a recruiting guy here. Yeah. But you always said your goal was captain.
Yes, sir.
You said, hopefully I can be a captain one day. Hopefully I can do the things and go through the ropes and walk the walk where they will trust me and believe in me to be a captain. Like, that's a special word for you. How would you define what it means to be a captain of a national championship team at the University of Georgia? What does it mean to you?
I think it means the world to me, and the reason being is because our teammates vote on our captains. It's not something that's chosen by Coach Smart or anyone else. It's your peers, and that means so much to me because those guys respect me enough that they chose me as their leader. They chose me as the guy that they put their trust into. So it means the world to me that I was selected with that honor. Very different in high school where coaches choose you and you kind of get that just from being, the right person, doing the right things. And I think college is a little bit more. It's a combination of being the right guy, having relationships with people, being trustworthy, all of those different things. I think being a captain in college, chosen by your peers, is a little bit more of on and off the field. So it means the world to me that those guys chose me as their leader, especially when there was some success behind it.
Sedrick, I think if you ask most Dawg fans that fill up this stadium who the greatest Dawg was of all time, some of the older heads would always say Herschel.
Yeah.
Some of the newer heads would probably say Brock, or might even say Stetson.
Yeah.
You played with both of those guys. Can you let us in on a little bit about how you view those guys and why they were so successful for Georgia? You saw them intimately, you bled with them, you went up and down steps with them. Like, why were those guys so successful here for this program?
I think a common trait that both of them had was their love for football and how hard they worked. So I think they worked hard in two different ways, but they both loved football enough that they were willing to spend a lot of time and give a lot of effort into it. So I think with Stetson, his love came more so with studying the game, watching film, picking apart different defenses that we had to play that week, or watching quarterbacks on the next level and what he can take from them. I can remember there were times where I was in the offensive line room by myself watching film at 11 o'clock, and I'm 11 p.m. at night, and I'm sending Stetson, videos. Hey, what do you want to do on this? What are you thinking? And he just walks in the room like, oh, nah, bro, I'm in the other room watching film too. So just the love that he has for the game and just to study it, I think that speaks. But then when you talk about Brock, I think that his love shows more in the physical. He's always first in conditioning. He's always looking to do the right thing. He's always trying to get extra. He's always here trying to figure out the best way to be himself. So I think they both love the game. I think they went about working hard in different ways. But I think they both are very effective. So I think the common trait that they both share is that they love football and then they were willing to work hard at it.
I think lastly, Sedrick, that number 63 jersey is also going to be very special to a lot of Dawg fans. Like, how do you hope you're remembered? I mean, I can see you, although it's maybe not your way, to come down here in a few years and call the Dogs. Like, you've seen other guys do that.
Yes, sir.
How do you hope DawgNation and this fan base that has just welcomed you with open arms, how do you hope they remember you?
Well, I'll say this, to the state of Georgia, to Athens, Clark County, to the University of Georgia, I really just want to say I really appreciate everything you have done for me. You have welcomed a kid from New Orleans, Louisiana with open arms. I know there's some division sometimes between New Orleans and Atlanta, or Louisiana and Georgia, because of the Saints and Falcons. But nonetheless, you all welcomed me with open arms. You integrated me into your community. You welcomed my family. So I really, really do appreciate you, and you have changed my life forever. and I owe you all a lot, and I'm so, so grateful for that. So right now, all I can give you is a thank you, but when I have a chance to give back, I absolutely plan on doing it.
Guys, that's Sedrick Van Pran-Granger. It always sounds like he rehearsed everything. It comes from his heart.
I wish.
We talked about Brock, we talked about Stetson, but this guy right here deserves to be in that category as well. I told him I was going to give him some flowers today in terms of giving credit where credit is due. Sedrick Van Pran-Granger, it's been my pleasure to cover you. No one, and let's repeat this, nobody that played every down at the University of Georgia has ever been a part of more victories for this great university.
I appreciate that. It's been a pleasure knowing you.
Take it easy, Sedrick.
Yes, sir.
Wow. I mean, an all-timer. I tell you, that stat that we used in that conversation, I looked it up. I talked with the Georgia Sports Information folks. I did my due diligence. I looked at anybody that would have anywhere near the number of wins, and the only one that matched him that played every down, I'm sure you heard that in the package, that, yeah, some punters, some kicker, Jake Cremata comes to mind, but nobody who played every down, a line of scrimmage player, starter for the University of Georgia, was a part of more wins ever. Say that again for the folks in the back. Ever 42-2 than Sedrick Van Pran-Granger. We mentioned the great David Green. I believe David was something like 42-10, 42-11. Sorry, 14, if I shortchanged you or gave you an extra loss there. But you look at Sedrick, not only is he 42-2 in his 44 starts, but he has 2 national championships. His only 2 losses, you heard how it burned in his gut, were to the University of Alabama. Folks, it was our pleasure to go to Athens to talk to Sedrick. I think I mentioned in that piece that I've been covering Sedrick, talking to him since September of 2018. So me and Seddy go back a long ways. I love that story about his last high school game, how it motivated him and how it really didn't matter when he got to college and started winning natties, plural, hat tip, Kendall Milton, with the Georgia Bulldogs. So really great conversation, really great stuff there with Sedrick Van Pran-Granger. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you tell a friend. I hope you watch it again, because that, my friends, is one of the all-time great winners and Georgia Bulldogs in the history of the Georgia football program. But we do have, I believe, hardest working segment after the Big Five in our Before the Hedges show. That would be the question of the week. Our question of the week comes to you guys. Kind of topical. It's kind of what is on everyone's mind, and what you saw earlier today. You got earlier in our show tonight. You got a chance to check it out. What do you think? Do you think Justus Terry will eventually flip to Georgia? Good question there. I think much remains to be seen. Kind of what we shared in that piece, what Justus told me, the story that went up on DawgNation.com last week, was Justus told me that he really doesn't know about the NIL piece at Georgia yet. He wants to hear that. He thinks it might come official visit. They'll start talking about all that stuff. But to me, there feels like still some momentum there with Justus Terry, the chance for Georgia to get back in this thing. Georgia can only be 2.5 hours away compared to California. He did tell me that if he ended up becoming a Trojan, playing for USC, that he would like to move some family members out there with him, because so he wouldn't get so lonesome, so homesick, everything else like that. Sure, that's what Lincoln Riley would love to hear right there, would love to see right there, perhaps to give some staying power if Justus Terry does decide to sign with USC in the class of 2025. Before we wrap up, we've got always the chance to have Miss Mansell from the studio join us right now. And I got a question for Kaylee. If she's watched the show, she's been a part of it. We've put together this special Dog Nation cruise edition called During the Cruise, Not Before the Hedges. Kaylee, I got a question for you. I'm not going to ask you about my shirt. I'm going to ask you, what do you think about the Dog Nation cruise? We're on it right now. What do you think it's going to be like hanging out with Brandon and Mike and me for a whole week out on the seas?
I think it's going to be like the Dogs back-to-back national championships. I don't know I don't know if anything's going to be able to top it. Like, this might be the peak of my life and things only get worse from here, but I'm just so excited to be near water. Also get a chance to get closer to my coworkers and meet everyone in DawgNation. So I hope that at this time right now I'm doing a zip line or doing the little surf thing or just really trying to get out of it what I put into it.
Hold on. So we can have Kaylee on the wave rider. Can we put that on Before the Hedges next week? I'm just totally kidding. Kaylee, really, that was a great Jeff Crycam answer right there. I'm going to come back to you for one thing. What do you think about Justus Terry? You have a thought? You've seen the package. You've heard. It's a long way away to Tinseltown in California. What do you think? Do you think Georgia eventually flips Justus Terry?
I do. I could see that happening. Obviously, this is a new day and age in college football, and anything can happen because of NIL. But I do think that he is a homebody and wants to be really close to his family. And I think that he knows the only way that he can do that realistically is to stay home. And I kind of was keeping an eye on him at G-Day because I'm just naturally nosy, and just his reactions to everything and the way he was taking it all in. I don't think he knows it yet, but he's going to be a dog.
Wow. Watching the body language. This Kaylee, she's only got one season under her belt right now, and she's already acting like a veteran, like an ace reporter. I will say I noticed a lot of those same things about Justus as well. There was one thing where everybody knows the Aristotle, the thinker pose. Well, I got some pictures. They're probably up on DawgNation.com with the story last week, but Justus is like this, and he's really trying to think. He's in deep thought. He told me he was watching Georgia play and practice and just imagining himself out there. So really cool stuff, really amazing stuff right there. Guys, not the longest show, but maybe the best show we could make for a vacation show. You got Sedrick Van Pran-Granger. You got Justus Terry. You got Kaylee with some warm fuzzies about hanging out with her team, wave riding, zip lining, having fun on a work week for DawgNation, even though this is a vacation show here for Before the Hedges. Guys, this is it, man. That's it. Next time you see us, we'll be back. We'll be tanned. We'll be rested. We'll be refreshed. We'll be recharged. Maybe there'll be another name to add to the commitment list there for the University of Georgia. How will the top targets evolve? Whew. We'll get to that next week. Right now, we're on a boat. Guys, that's been your intel. I'm Jeff Sentell, and we'll see you guys again later on the pages of DawgNation.com.
Let's go. I'm a bulldog. So Georgia, who I'm picking. I love the family atmosphere and the way they handle business. Education is important.